Question: what do you think causes past masters, especially recent past masters, to stop showing up after their year in the East, and how can this be remedied?
I think there's a couple of things. Go ahead, Justin. I'll let you speak first on it.
I touched on this a bit. I think you're referring to a thread that someone else started earlier today, and I touched on it, and I'll just reiterate and reinforce my opinion is that it really all comes down to leadership. I think people stop coming because they get burned out, and they get burned out because they have goals for their year and they don't get any kind of support. Maybe they aren't prepared properly to actually lead the lodge, and the other quote unquote leadership has no accountability, and so no one has any follow through, and it ends up just being one person or a handful of people doing all the work to try to end the year gracefully, and hopefully it'll be successful. And by the time they're done, they say, well, no one helped me. I'm burned out. It sucked. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to see these people, and so they just leave. And there's several things to unpack from that. First of all, is the experience, which is important. A good worshipful master needs to know what reasonable expectations are, needs to be familiar with goal setting and just basic leadership, but also needs to be familiar with building.
You have to get
support.
The buy-in.
Yeah, buy-in. That's what I was. You have to build.
You have to get the buy-in from your brothers, and you have to know how to do that.
Yeah,
if you don't know how to do that, you'll fail miserably.
If you just get installed and then you gavel and say, "Hey, we're gonna start wearing tuxedos every meeting, regardless if you like it or not." You don't have the buy-in. You just sat down and made this decree, and probably most people don't have tuxedos. If you had built it up, maybe led by example for the last few years and got people on board with it, maybe you would have had more success one direction or the other. But
brother Dave Meckham, he wanted to do that years ago, and he wanted everybody to wear suits, and they still do in his lodge. But he bought all of his officers a suit for during his year, so that they had a suit, and that way there was no monetary issue there.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing in asking all of my officers to do that, and though one of them didn't, just out of spite for me, but now wears one all the time just because he likes it. He was just giving me a hard time because he was showing me that I couldn't be the master that just ruled with an iron gavel. You can't be that guy. And I get it. And he and I are real close friends. I love him to death. And I would not be the man I am today or the Mason I am today without the support of Brother Scott. And he knows that. But I don't know that he'll be listening to this, but he knows that.
There's one more thing I want to touch on for that, is that going back to accountability. As an organization, any successful organization has to have accountability. If you say you're going to do this, if you accept a position like a job and you have a job description, you're suspected to fulfill that job description. And usually that's not the case. Most people just go through the year just sitting in their position, saying what they're supposed to say, but they don't go through the actual description of what their role is. And
it's because we push too far that it's a volunteer organization, and so they feel like, well, it's just I'm here, you're lucky that I'm showing up every week or whatever, that's just not the attitude to have.
We start them off.
We should not be putting those guys in office.
No, we start them off.
Go ahead.
As an air apprentice, saying that, hey, you need to be here whenever you can, but here your job, your family, all these things come first. Which is that's understandable, but it's meant to be the exception, not the norm.
We're also told how much time to utilize in each day with certain things, and I can assure you, a lot more time is going to everything else than the 8 hours in the day that should go to God and a distressed worthy brother.
So we really need to stress.
I think
if we start stressing,
and I can say that with myself.
if we start stressing from day one with the EAs, hey, it's important that you're here. It is important. Yeah. It's expected. You joined us for a reason. If you don't show up, you wasted everybody's time. So
well, and yes, and that's a big thing right there is that expectation, because what's worse than having somebody come through? It's almost like when you've got this new guy has all this attention going through all the degrees, and as soon as he's done, everybody forgets about him and goes to the next new guy, and they're putting all their attention into the next new guy. Yeah. So it's almost the same thing. And I think it goes back to the mentorship. If you don't have good mentorship and a good mentorship program in your lodge and intentional about it, then that's what's hurting us the most. I think that's our biggest failure in our lodges.
But if you have expectations for the little things when they're new, they'll follow through with the expectations for the bigger things when they start getting into the line.